I'm running this monkey farm now, Frankenstein!
I know I'd go from rags to riches.
Why, a 4-year-old child could understand this report. Run out and find me a 4-year-old child. I can't make head or tail out of it.
Or will I go?
Faravelli, you've got the brain of a 4-year-old boy, and I bet he was glad to get rid of it.
My fate is up to you.
Now I'd be shitting my pants if I was you.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Your List Sucks. Sorry, we're getting off to a little late start. Thank you, everybody who hung in there waiting us to get going here. It is the Criterion draft. We are going to be drafting the Criterion movies. Great collection of classic art house movies and also Armageddon. So we picked draft order before we got started here. Scott, you're going to be going first. How are you feeling about your draft board tonight?
I'm feeling pretty good. I think, I'm going to actually have to use some strategy. I think in some of the past drafts, I haven't necessarily had to use a lot of strategy, but looking at who we have in the panel tonight, I mean, obviously we all love a lot of these movies. Looking at what's on my draft board, I'm going to have to think about this. I can't just pick from the heart necessarily.
All right. Drafting second is Adelaide Spence. Spence, what was your war room like today in preparation for the draft?
My war room was Payson saying like half an hour ago, "Hey, we should all wear suits, right?" And no one else fucking committed to the bit. I
wore a suit all day.
I followed through. Anyways, I'm doing all right. I'm making my big ass whiteboard list ready to get like third probably.
All right. We got Dylan up next. Dylan, you've kind of made a name for yourself as having a pretty eclectic taste in movies, including a lot of Criterion stuff. How do you like your chances today?
I don't know what place I'm going to go in. I'm kind of the opposite of Scott. I'm basically just going off from the heart. I feel like this is going to be a very, very laid back draft for me. I'm just going to, because I don't think I really even need to use much strategy because I don't think anyone's going to take any of the movies that I want. So I think we're good.
Fair enough. And then somebody, the Cinemaster himself, someone who's known for loving all movies, but gets very excited whenever he gets a new Criterion Blu-ray. It's Payson Johnson. Payson, I know you're excited for this one. Tell me what you're thinking about it right now.
No, yeah, like you just said it. Like whenever, like the dopamine rush every time I walk into a Barnes & Noble and I'm like, all right, what am I buying today? Let's go. Yeah, my draft board consists of my Blu-rays. Just put them all right there. I'm not gonna show ones that but yeah, I'm just gonna be staring over at my bed throughout the entire match. I've been collecting since 2016. So since I turned like 18 around the time I graduated high school, when I was like, you know what, I can just spend money on whatever the heck I want to. And I had two options. I could have started smoking weed, or I could have started buying Criterions. I bought Criterions.
You could do both.
All right. We'll see how that plays out for you. And in fifth place, she won the poll, or she won the straw poll to pick her selection first. Pick the fifth spot in the draft, so we'll see how that works out for her. But making her, I think, YLS debut, correct?
Yeah, I've never been here.
Somebody I'm really excited about, Melissa Woody. Melissa, I've wanted to have you on the show for a while. I really enjoy, whenever you're on other shows and you talk about movies, so I'm glad to have you here. What do you think about making your first appearance and about the Criterion draft specifically?
I'm terrified. In this one, it was extremely hard because there is so many great movies to choose from. So it's very hard to narrow it down to 5. But I'm just trying to imagine myself in the Criterion closet. What would I choose? What would I geek out about? So that's what I'm trying to do today.
Okay, well, let's see how that works out. Before we get started, a little housekeeping. YLS is off next week. There is no YLS. The week after is the soda tier list. Featuring Sup Tea. I think Cody said he's looking for at least one other person on that. So if you're interested in tearing sodas, now's your chance. Reach out to Cody or Koho about that. And I think he said that the Build-A-Movie has been moved back to June. So yeah, I think that takes care of all of May. I don't know. We'll see. But that's the next 2 weeks for Your List Sucks. Without further ado, let's get started. Scott, you're on the clock. Your first pick in the Criterion draft.
Should I do the soda tier as someone who doesn't actually drink soda? I think that would be kind of funny. But anyway, number one pick in the draft again. I kind of didn't hope I would be here, but I'm here. So I'm going to use a little bit of strategy. I'm going to try to take a movie that, of course, I absolutely love. And yes, is high on my draft board, but also which I imagine most, if not everyone else here, loves. It is one of the most powerful, relevant movies ever. No spoilers, but the Sight and Sound YLS thing, multiplex thing that we're doing now, I submitted my list today. It was very, very high on my list. So I'm going to go with Spike Lee's classic, Do the Right Thing.
All right.
Again, like I said, one of the most powerful, relevant movies ever. Just an in-your-face sort of confrontational expose of hate in all different forms from all different, sides of this community that Spike Lee depicts, and the way that it continues to build and fester until it explodes into something violent and ultimately tragic and fatal. Before it gets to that point, it's kind of a hangout movie, though. There's a lot of fun moments in the movie, too, where you're really just, enjoying spending time and being introduced to all the characters. I love and they hose the guy's car down, or, in the street, the really obnoxious dude. That's great. That's the great reggae song. All the characters are great. The doctor, played by Ozzie Davis. You think about Bugging Out, Giancarlo Esposito, really great character, and asking some questions that people are still debating today. So I think this movie's perfect. It also looks amazing. Sorry, I have to say that too. Like, it's the colors and the vibrancy of this movie. Last time I watched it with my friend, we were like, why doesn't every movie look like this nowadays? It's a perfect film, in my opinion. It's a masterpiece.
Yeah, good number one overall pick. And I should mention that before the show started, we spun a wheel to give everybody their draft pick. Scott came in last, was saddled with the first pick. So we'll see how this works out for him, if that affected his strategy at all. Anybody else considering Do the Right Thing? Was been your number one pick? Or was it on your board at all? Everybody's thoughts on Do the Right Thing?
It was very... Oh, go ahead, Bill. Yeah.
No,
it was It was definitely one that I considered. Yeah, I love this movie. It's in my. It would be in my top 20 as well when I submitted it for the Sight and Sound thing. Yeah, I think it's really fantastic. Great characters. I love movies that also really capture like weather, and I think like you really feel the heat in this movie of like the summer. It's really well done, and yeah, just really, really great film.
Yeah, this is
Go ahead.
Yeah, this is one of the ones I definitely had on my board. I do own this one. I'm going to be showing off all the ones I do own tonight. Great Criterion release that came out a few years ago. Really cool booklet. This is one of the most seminal like American films to I think ever be released. I think so many of the characters are so well lived in, whether it's movie, whether it's Bugging Out, whether it's Radio Raheem. You just think about all the characters. I love that Spike doesn't like he doesn't make the answers necessarily like easy, because all the characters are like, okay, there are definitely some characters that are like completely unlikable, but no character is without their faults in some way, which I think is really, really great. There are some hilarious scenes. Like, I think the scene where just it's the edit of all these people just like shouting why they hate different groups of people, which is like horrible, but like he films it in like such a weird, like humorous way, and then just juxtaposing it with the ending of just what happens to certain characters, just the anger that you as an audience member feel. And even with that, it's still a very rewatchable movie, in my opinion. I watch it at least once a year. It is like the colors of this movie completely pop. It's one of the most visually appealing movies of all time. Like Dylan said, you feel the sweat on all the characters when you are watching. You literally feel the sweat. It's an incredible film.
Yeah, I definitely considered it, but I figured somebody else would pick it. But it is one of those perfect films. Like, there's nothing that I would change about it by any means. And yeah, it's hard to add to the conversation because just like the color palette, the performances, all of it is just top notch, top level. I've only seen it once, but it's such a powerful film that it definitely like sticks with you. But I definitely would want to rewatch it again because I felt a shift in myself. Like, it's one of those films that you feel different after watching it. Yeah, very powerful.
It was actually my very last addition to my list, but I didn't think I was going to be able to get it. I need to rewatch it. Actually, I don't have like super strong memories about it or super high memories about it, but I know that's probably not going to hold up to today. So I'm not heartbroken I missed it.
All right. Well, Spence, you are on the clock. Do the right thing off the board. What is your number one overall pick?
I believe Payson has a DVD of this, so we'll see if we can show it. I think this is probably maybe the best movie in the Criterion list, which I know is like a high bar, but I don't think you can do better than one of Wong Kar-wai's many masterpieces, In the Mood for Love. It's flawless. Like, I think it is truly. There's no film, in my opinion. In my opinion, no film that truly captures love in the absence of it so powerfully. So I think the idea of a love that's not even requited, you can't have it, you can't commit to it. That is something I didn't think that can be shown, and it is done so well. And Maggie Cheung, Tony Leung, some of the hottest fucking lead actors in any movie ever. It is dripping with ooze and charisma and desire. It is, and that final shot is one of the best in film history. You cannot top this.
All right. Spence's number one overall pick, In the Mood for Love. Yeah, great movie. I've seen it once. I want to rewatch it. I enjoyed it. But for me, I think just because of the subject matter and the way the story is told, there was a little bit of a language barrier for me that kept me from completely connecting from it to it. So, but still, masterfully made movie, obviously. Everybody else today, was anybody else thinking about that? I'll go in order this time. Dylan, were you considering In the Mood for Love? Have you seen this one?
No, Wong Kar-wai is actually a blind spot for me that I'm just recently starting to correct, and this is one I still haven't gotten to yet.
Payson, you own it? What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, no, I own it. I absolutely love this one. This was one of those blind buys I have where I just walked into the store and I'm like, you know what? I've never seen this. I hope I really like this. And I buy it and I watch it and I'm like, oh, this is just so happens to be one of the greatest films of all time. No, I think the reason the language barrier doesn't personally bother me is because so much of this story is told through visuals. Just the looks between Tony Leung and Maggie Cheung. You get so much of their longing just from watching how they react to each other. I'm a little shocked Spence thinks this is the best movie about unrequited life. I feel like they're kind of betraying their own reputation in this community, but we'll see if that movie comes up. But yeah, the best movie of last year referenced this movie, so yeah.
Joseph, I didn't complain about it. I admitted it. I'm the problem about the movie. Just to be clear. Melissa, your thoughts on In the Mood for Love?
Yeah, I absolutely love this movie. I definitely considered it for the list as well. I think Wong Kar-wai is like the master at loneliness. Like, in all of his movies, he's so good at depicting that. And there's no exception here. He does it again. But it's with the mix of also like love and lust and passion. Yeah, the cinematography is incredible. The way that he uses shadows and the color red throughout this movie. Yeah, and just the lead performances are incredible. Yeah, this is a perfect film, in my opinion.
And Scott, I know how you feel about this movie. Is this one you considered for number one?
Yeah, I definitely consider it. It's definitely, on the list. I love it. I actually kind of agree with Aaron. I like Fallen Angels a little bit more, probably Wong Kar-wai, but yeah, devastating movie. All the stuff where they're like play acting and whatnot is, heartbreaking, but gorgeous to look at, gorgeous people. It's very high on the real Sight and Sound list. I think it earns its place.
All right. So that was Spence's number one overall pick, In the Mood for Love. Dylan, you were on the clock. Your first pick overall.
Yeah, so a couple ground rules that I set for myself. I did separate how I'm going to be drafting these in order by genre loosely. And also, I just wanted to talk about movies that I haven't got the chance to talk about yet, just because I feel like there's a lot of cool movies in the Criterion channel that I feel like in the Criterion collection that deserve a shout out. And shockingly enough, I don't think I've ever got the chance to talk about my number one favorite movie of all time on this channel. Which, if you follow my letterbox, you might have noticed it. But my favorite movie of all time is Ingmar Bergman's The Seventh Seal, and that is going to be my number one pick. So yeah, this movie, I remember I watched it when I was just on like a binge of like classic art house and like foreign films, and this one, a lot of them, it was like I was watching back to backs, and this one that made me kind of like stop and just like reflect on it for a while, because it was one of those ones that hit me at the exact right time. One of the films that really like basically made me like fall in love with movies all over again for how it can get like an emotional catharsis out of you, where, because for just speaking personally, I've always had like this fear of like death basically, and that's what Ingmar Bergman is doing through this movie, is processing his own fear of death through this. And just with like the visual poetry storytelling that he has through this movie of the Antonius Block, played by Max von Sydow, trying to avoid death and basically fearing it the whole time, and how that comes around at the end. It was one of those ones where it's like I'd always been told, like, just enjoy the ride basically in life, and just try to like feel, as they say in the movie, feel the triumph of being alive. For some reason, it didn't fully click with me until I saw this movie, and it was one of those ones that like really like changed how I think. And for that, it's my favorite movie of all time, and I'm happy to pick it for my number one pick.
That's awesome. I did not know this was your favorite of all time. Yeah, this is a really good movie. I saw it for the first time a couple years ago. Yeah, I think this really lives up to the hype. I just love like all like the surreal fantasy elements of it. Like I love the personification of death in the game and everything it means. Max von Sydow's great in it. And it's just a great looking movie, the way it's shot, and I think the cinematography carries the theme so well. So yeah, very solid number one pick. Pace, we'll go to you. Was this on your short list?
Yeah, it was on my short list. It wasn't super high up, mainly because I've only seen it once, on the Blu-ray. It was a blind buy. I watched it and I was like, oh, this is incredible, but it's definitely one that I think I need to watch again because it is such a dense piece of film. But yeah, like Dylan said, if the idea of just a character talking to the manifestation of death before he comes to take him doesn't sound interesting to you, it probably won't one. But I loved it. I want to watch more Bergman. I own another Bergman movie on Criterion. I'm not going to name it, but it's the other, like one of the other three big ones that he directed. But yeah, this is a very, very good choice.
Also, sorry, I just want to butt in for 1 second. I forgot to mention one thing. The final shot in the movie, or one of the last shots of the movie, of the dance with death, is my single favorite shot in any movie ever. Like no other image from any film compares to that, in my opinion. Sorry, go ahead, everyone else.
All right, Melissa, is this the Seventh Seal? Is this one you were thinking about taking?
Yeah, I thought about taking it. I don't know you that well, Dylan, but I knew that you do love this movie, and I was just like, I don't want to take that from him. Like, let him have it. No, I am a big Ingmar Bergman fan. Everything that I've seen from him is just incredible, in my opinion. And this is no exception. This was actually the first one I ever saw, though. Weirdly enough, my 6th grade teacher showed me this movie. And I was like, what is this? And I remember like seeking it out and watching it again. And then I hadn't seen it for years. And I recently rewatched it, I think last year, the year before that. And yeah, it's incredible storytelling. I think Ingmar Bergman is amazing at visual poetry with the way that he kind of does his storytelling in films. So yeah, great pick.
Cool. Scott, was this on your radar at all? So
I've never seen it, actually.
Okay. And Spence?
Oh, one up, Scott. I've never seen a Bergman film, period.
Okay.
I have seen a Bergman film. So.
All right. That takes over to number 4 on the board. Payson, you are on the clock. Your number 1 overall pick.
Yeah, there are a lot of choices I could go here, but I'm going to play it real personal. I'm just going to take my favorite movie that's in the Criterion collection. It's my 5th favorite film of all time. I think it is. Yeah, I would say it is probably the greatest piece of film satire to ever be created. I am talking about the 1964 film Doctor Strangelove, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb. This, by proxy, is my favorite comedy of all time. This is my favorite Stanley Kubrick movie. I think the way it's so funny when 2 years ago, when Don't Look Up came out, and people said this is what Strangelove and Network to their times. This is what that movie is to now. And I think you may have just made Stanley Kubrick. I don't even think he rolled in his grave. I think he rolled so much he dug out of his grave and is now just in the Earth's core. But no, Peter Sellers is maybe giving my favorite film performance of all time. All 3 characters he plays are incredible. I know everyone loves Doctor Strangelove, and he's definitely like the loudest and most boisterous character, even though he only shows up like in the second half of the movie and might have like in total 10 minutes of screen time. But like my favorite is Merkin Muffley, the president. Just that scene on the phone where he's just talking with the ambassador of Russia, and it sounds like 2 spouses arguing, like, Dimitri, I'm sorry, I'm trying to shoot them down, but they're very good at their job. I'm sorry, Dimitri, please. It's incredible. Sterling Hayden. I am convinced that when Vince McMahon was trying to create his commissioner character in the 90s, he watched Sterling Hayden in Doctor Strangelove because he's so like over the top and just like scarcely evil to see a person like this in power and just talking about bodily fluids. It's incredible. Like it's one of my favorite movies to rewatch, and yeah, like it is scary because of how good and funny the satire is. But yeah, there are other Kubrick movies I could have picked. I'm not going to show them because they could maybe show up. But yeah, this is it's in my top 5 favorite films of all time, and I had to pick this one.
No, great pick. I love Doctor Strangelove. Like I say this every time the movie comes up, just how modern it feels. Like I always have to remind myself this came out in '64, because if you just watch it and do anything about it, you'd be like, oh, that came out like 1978. Like that's just the kind of movie it is. In fact, this came out the same year as My Fair Lady is just crazy. But no, yeah, it's a great comment. And there's the other thing, Kubrick. You think about Kubrick as like the Shining guy and the Full Metal Jacket guy and the Paths of Glory guy, and then he makes something like this, which is just so irreverent and hilarious. Is just shows you just the range that he had. But no, very solid number 1 pick. Melissa, was Doctor Strangelove on your board?
It was not on my board. I've only seen the movie once. I like appreciate its greatness and brilliance more than I think really enjoying it myself. I do want to rewatch it though at some point. Like I did think it was really like smart. Like that's kind of how I felt after watching the movie. I was like, okay, that was very like smartly written, and Peter Sellers was incredible at like his performance, but I wasn't like, I don't know, for me personally, I wasn't like, wow, like this is my favorite new film. I just thought it was good.
Scott, you bummed out about missing out on Doctor Strangelove?
Not too much. It's one that needs a revisit for me. I haven't seen it since high school. I liked it then, but like I said, I don't. It's been a while. I probably can't offer too much of an intelligent perspective on it because I don't remember it a whole lot. But it's obviously a good pick.
I will ditto Scott.
Spence, how do you feel about Doctor Strangelove?
I'll ditto Scott's sentiment. I also haven't seen it since high school, but I didn't like it then because I was an itchy little fuck. Go back to the do the right thing argument. So I'm happy to revisit it eventually. I am a Kubrick fan, so I'll probably like it more the second time around.
Yeah, basically
Dylan,
in the same boat as Scott. I loved it when I last saw it, but like, which I guess is not entirely what Scott said, but I really loved it when I last saw it, but I haven't seen it recently enough to add anything interesting to the conversation.
Okay, Melissa, you asked for the 5th pick. You got it. We're here. You're on the clock. Which number 1 overall pick?
Yeah, I'm glad my number 1 was not taken. I was a little nervous. I wasn't sure. But I'm going to go with The Red Shoes. I think this film is just visually a masterpiece. And it has everything I want in a film. It's kind of a melodrama at some points. It also has that blend of reality and fantasy, descended to madness type of thing. Those are all like elements I love in a film. And I love that she's the main character. She's kind of torn on, do I want to have love and connection and like flourish my like personal life, or do I want to be the best in my craft, and that drive for success? And she's kind of torn between those decisions. And I think the relationships in this movie are really complex, and the performances are really well done. And then obviously the amazing 15-minute dance sequence is just one of the best things visually I've ever seen on film. And I love that it's very meta. It takes all the themes of the film and puts it in that play. And yeah, I need to watch it again. I've actually only seen it one time, but I was blown away, and I was like, this is easily like one of my new favorite films of all time. And I think Powell and Pressburger just make incredible, visually stunning films. So I wanted to make sure that they were on my list tonight.
Okay, I watched this for the first time this week because I figured it was going to get drafted, and I liked it. It started out a little slow for me, but once you hit that ballet scene, holy crap, it just takes off. That scene is it's amazing, and the whole movie just like this Technicolor dream. It looks so good. It's shot so well, just the different use of color and everything else. And like you said, the way the story reflects the story of the ballet reflects the overall story of the movie, and a lot of themes and stuff is pretty cool. So yeah, I thought this was great. Scott, are you a Red Shoes guy?
Still haven't seen this one either. I don't think it's going to be like this the whole time, but yeah, hitting some blind spots.
Spence,
I have not seen.
Dylan,
Have not seen, but it's on my list for the Criterion Challenge, so I'll see it this year.
Payson, I don't think you pulled this one out. Have you seen it?
I did not pull this one out because I have yet to see it, but I want to.
All right. Okay, well, that was easy enough. Before we get back to Melissa for start the second round, recapping round number one, Scott took Do the Right Thing. Spence took In the Mood for Love. Dylan went with The Seventh Seal. Payson took Dr. Strangelove. Melissa took The Red Shoes. Now on the swing, Melissa, you start round two with your next pick.
Yeah, I don't know if this would get chosen or not. So I am gonna just pick it a little earlier than planned, but I am gonna go with House from 1977. I wanted to make sure there was some horror on my board tonight, and this movie is nothing you've ever seen before. It visually is just insane. It's very eccentric, strange, surreal. It's almost like a coming of age story, but it's in a horror movie, which is interesting. And I do appreciate that it like respects the like child's perspective, and kind of has that perspective in the movie. So with that said, the imagination is just like with no bounds, which I love. And if you haven't seen it, very much encourage you to check it out. But I think the piano scene is definitely like the standout of like what you remember. But there's just a lot of wacky visuals, and it's definitely hard to explain the movie because it's very much an experience type of movie, which I love those kind of films.
Yeah, like you said, it's a little bit of everything. It's a horror movie. It's a coming of age story. It's a little bit of a kung fu movie. There's so many different elements they just mash together. Like it just doesn't care. It's just whatever it wants to be. I think this is a great pick. I'm glad you took it. I didn't expect to see it to go so quick, but I thought it might go. But it's a great number 2 pick. Everybody else, who has seen House here? Everybody's seen it. I do. Dylan would have. Anybody else?
It was a language barrier. I couldn't.
Criterion sale. I walk into the store and I see the cover of this one with the cat, and he has a funny face and it's orange. I'm like, I want to get that one, and I never do, and I'm always mad I don't.
Dylan's the only one who's seen it. What are your thoughts on it? What do you think about drafting this? I know you're the horror guy too.
This movie is fucking insane. I love it so much. This is like truly, it is very loose on plot. Like they basically go to this house and shit starts going crazy, and then from there on, you have no idea what's happening. And there's also like so much weird, like almost offbeat comedic moments as well. Like there's a part early on in the film where a guy just like in cartoonish fashion trips down like a flight of stairs outside and lands in like a mop bucket, I think. And it's like, what is going on? The music is insane. Like there's a character named Kung Fu who their whole gimmick is they know Kung Fu and they fight. They try to fight the monsters. It's pretty sick. And they have their own musical theme that always gets stuck in my head when I watch the movie. Yeah, great pick. I was not expecting it to go this quickly, but yeah, I'm kind of mad I didn't consider it.
All right. Yeah, this one I definitely got to get a rewatch. I haven't seen in a while. Payson, we're coming back to you for your number 2 pick.
Yeah, just to refresh. Even if a movie is out of print in the collection, as long as it had a spine number, you are going to allow it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I don't know it's out of print, so you would need to tell me that.
That's fair. Then I think of all the ones that are... I think this one's probably in the most danger of getting picked by a certain other member. Scott, what state are you from?
Tennessee. Oh, I know where this is going.
What's the capital of Tennessee, baby?
Nash Vegas.
Dang right. Yeah, I am taking Nashville for my second pick. This is one I just watched for like the first time 3 days ago. It's one that Boatman kept on telling me, like saying, Payson, knowing you are going to love it. And looking up stuff about it, I was like, I'm not like a country music guy, so I'm not really sure why. And then watching the movie, I'm like, oh, this is why he thought I was going to love it. I love movies that cover huge casts and are just about you seeing their lives and their personal struggles and all the things that like they're dealing with. And I think this is maybe one of the best movies to ever do that. Robert Altman, the way he weaves through all these 24 characters, the way how he makes the city of Nashville feel like a character, I think is really, really effective. The music, even though I'm not like a big country music guy, I do think is really, really good. One of like a scene that I've watched like 5 times since I've seen the movie is the scene where Keith Carradine plays I'm Easy for Lily Tomlin, where his character goes up in the club and he's like, hey, this is a song I just wrote. I wrote it for someone. Maybe she's here tonight. And just he performs the song. You listen to the lyrics. It's like one of the most like longingly romantic songs you'll ever hear. And just it keeps cutting to Lily Tomlin's character, who knows exactly that this song is about her. They're my favorite relationship in the movie, but I also love like Ned Beatty's like slimy, like business, like lawyer-esque mentality. The character of Sue Ann, who is someone that like is not musically talented by any means, but she wants to become a musician, and it seems like she doesn't realize why the record producers want to start giving her deals, and it's because they expect certain favors from her, which is like really gross. Yeah, this movie definitely hits like the dark elements of some of these characters. I think it has a really like unique ending. Like it's an ending that should be kind of dark, but it has like this weird like uplifting feel to it. This is just one that I've been thinking about since I saw it on Sunday, I believe. I just had like 3 hours to spend, and I was like, I'm gonna watch Nashville for the first time. And yeah, I think it is incredible. There are a few other Robert Altman movies I own. But I do not actually own this one because it costs around $80 as a Blu-ray. I'm currently in an eBay bidding war to try to get it to get it for cheaper. But excellent film.
All right, Payson taking Nashville as number 2 pick. This is a very unique movie. What I love about this film is that it's like there's half a dozen movies all happening at the same time, and you're just kind of wandering through all of them, and you weave in and out, and you visit these characters and see what they're doing, and then you go and you watch somebody else, and then you come back and see what's happening with that story left off. And everybody, I like how they all intertwine. So everybody's walking through this movie like they're the main character, because in some sense they all are the main character of their own movie. And I just think that's a really unique way to put a film like this together. People say it's not that heavy on plot. I think it's very heavy on plot. It has a lot of different plots going on all at once. And it's a lot of fun to watch. And I think it makes it really digestible for a movie with this length. I think great number 2 overall pick. Melissa, was Nashville something you were considering?
I have actually not seen this. It's been on my watch list. I've only seen one Robert Altman film, and I absolutely loved it, and I gave it 5 stars. So I need to see more of his movies, but I don't want to mention it just in case it might come up.
Yeah. Don't tip your picks. Scott, again, your home state. Was there any bias there where you consider taking this because of that?
Sure, there's bias, I guess, but it's also an incredible film. Of course, I like it for the Tennessee connection, but that's far from the only reason. Amazing, portrait of America. I don't really know how he holds it all together, but he does. How Altman is able to do it, but he does. The movie just feels so alive, so vibrant. You barely notice as it's skirting from story to story because you're so captivated and in the moment. And the ending is incredible. It was on my top 100 scenes list. Makes you feel a lot of things at once. And again, a very sort of maybe relevant scene for how we approach tragedies today when they happen in America. So this was very high on my draft board. Very good pick, Payson.
Okay.
Spence.
I haven't seen this, but I have seen Popeye, so I know my Robert Altman priorities.
Somewhere Zach Ford just sat up.
And Dylan.
I haven't seen it either.
Okay. All right, Dylan, what were you for your next pick?
Yeah, so I don't have much Criterions to show off, like Criterion Blu-rays, but this is one of the few ones I do have. I'm going to go for my pick here. I'm going to pick my horror film of the ones that I'm drafting, and I'm going to go with probably my favorite film from one of my favorite directors, one David Lynch. I'm going with Eraserhead. I love this movie so much. One thing that I like about David Lynch's films is, again, it's not really kind of like with House. It's not really like a solid plot. It's more of just like an overall mood and atmosphere. And I think this one was it's his most straightforward plot in a sense, where it's just basically it's all about a father who or someone who learns that they're a father to this demon baby, basically, that won't stop screaming. And it's all about fatherhood, unplanned fatherhood, and it's in a very terrifying, it conveys that in a very terrifying way that gets super surrealist and insane. And I love the overall descent into madness, and also there's some weirdly eerily beautiful scenes that end up being even more creepy, with the lady in the radiator. The song that she sings, "In Heaven Everything Is Fine," is very, very creepy, but the song is really, really good in my opinion. Love this movie. Not much more else to say about it.
Yeah, I finally got around to watching this one because we're talking Criterion and you were going to be here, so I figured I needed to watch Eraserhead. I finally checked it off my list. It's a movie. I don't know how to feel about it. I'll say this. I assume when David Lynch made this film, there was a certain way that he wanted me to feel while watching it, and he succeeded. So for that alone, I'll give him points. But it's off the wall. It's as we say, it's not a Cody movie. This is not one we'll have Cody watch anytime soon. But a lot of it's interesting. But just some horrific imagery. And above John, I know he doesn't like to talk about it because he wants to keep it mysterious. But I want to know how they did some of the effects. That baby is so creepy looking with his eyes. The eyes look so real. The inside of its mouth is just so gross. They show that close up of it crying. Just a lot of really disturbing images. So we'll go reverse here since we're going that direction. Spence, Eraserhead, thoughts?
You think I've seen this shit?
Scott?
I love David Lynch, but somehow I've still never seen this one.
Melissa, how about you?
Oh, it might not be a Cody movie, but it's a Melissa movie. I love this movie. Definitely thought about drafting it tonight, but I thought it might get taken. But yeah, no, this movie is just a fever dream. Incredible nightmarish images. I do think the sound design in this movie is like amazing, and I really would love to see this on the big screen at some point in my life. I think that would really even add to this crazy movie, because it's definitely one of those, again, experience type of movies where you just enjoy the ride of what you're seeing visually.
And Payson, how about you?
This movie's fucking awesome. Great pick. Yeah, like what a like baller first movie, just to come out of the gate and say, "This is me, guys," and it's just a guy just walking around thinking about his deformed, ugly child. Like, sorry, but like that I realize how unpolitically correct that was of calling the child ugly, but it's an ugly child. Like,
Babies can be ugly. Fuck babies.
Yeah, like Melissa said, I think the sound design it just disturbs you. Like, just thinking about this movie, it's one of those few movies where just thinking about it it makes you feel uneasy. Yeah, David Lynch is a badass. He directed one of my favorite, he directed my favorite TV show of all time, and I've seen a few of his movies, and I've liked all of them except for one. It's not in the collection, so I can name it. I've always said as a joke, a 4-pointer in Melee I've always wanted to write is name something that happens in Inland Empire, and
check yourself. It is in Criterion.
Incredible.
Now that is a movie right there. Inland Empire.
All right, quit timid picks. Spence, coming over.
I will not be drafting
Spence, what's your number 2 overall pick here on the clock?
I want to clarify something, just because I feel like I might sound inauthentic for the next few picks. Ever since the top 100, I'm not picking movies in my top 100 for YLS anymore. Everyone told me to talk about it extensively. I'm done. There are 7 movies in my top 100 in the Criterion list. I'm probably going to avoid them, except for maybe one. I am going to pick, though, maybe Martin Scorsese's best movie. It's at least top 2. I think Raging Bull is a masterclass in acting. I think Robert De Niro gives one of the best performances in film history. I remember seeing this. This is going to sound really shitty. I saw this on a portable DVD player on a road trip to college. And if that fucking movie can play as well as it does on that tiny, like literally this big, tiny ass screen, I can't imagine what it would be like on the big screen on my TV here or anything like that. It blew me away as sort of like, it's like not quite an introduction to Scorsese, but one of like my earlier experiences. And knowing him as like the newer guy, or growing up, I'm like, oh yeah, it's that guy from Shark Tale. And then just seeing how he can change like cinema. I felt so many things were introduced to me in the best way. Like, how do you top this? And also Joe Pesci, Home Alone guy. Nah, this dude fucking rips. He does the best thing. He's an angry short Italian dude, and he mastered it.
What did you say about? No. What did you say about Joe Pesci? Did you say he's ripped?
No, I said he's short.
Oh, okay.
Oh, rips. Yeah, I can't say fucks anymore, so he rips.
That makes more sense.
No, obviously you're not going to go wrong with me picking Scorsese. This is a great pick, great movie. Probably the best boxing ever put to film. The way he films the boxing scenes in this movie is just pretty amazing. His performance and just his, the time frame he covers, the different periods that's got the ups and downs that he's able to portray is really great. And yeah, it's a great supporting cast as well. So great pick. We'll go to Scott first. Was Raging Bull something you're considering drafting?
I wasn't considering drafting it, but it's a great movie. The only thing that holds me back is just it is not it doesn't make me feel good. Like this movie makes me is a feel bad movie for sure. It's not something that I want to think about or come back to.
Did you skip out of the theater after seeing Do the Right Thing?
Well, no, but again, it has its moments. But yeah, no, I mean, it's a fair point. But I do think it's an amazing movie, and like you said, the boxing scene. I mean, I think might be Thelma Schoonmaker's best work with Scorsese, like especially during those boxing scenes. Like that is some jaw dropping stuff that she does from an editing perspective. So I can't fault the pick at all. It's just not my favorite, but it is one of the best.
All right, Melissa, I don't think I've ever heard your take on Scorsese in general. What are your thoughts on Raging Bull?
I love Raging Bull. This was actually, I think, my first Scorsese, because this was one of my dad's favorite films. So I remember watching this as a young child and thinking, "What the hell?" But it was really good. I haven't seen it in a really long time. It's definitely due for a rewatch. But I think if I were to rank Scorsese, this would actually be pretty high, and people would probably hate my rankings of Scorsese because I feel like all the movies that people think are okay of his, I think are like his best. So, but no, this is a great pick. I didn't consider it for the list though.
We'll discuss that later. I'm curious now.
Okay.
Pesa, what are your thoughts? I kind of have a feeling what you're going to say about this, but Raging Bull.
Yeah, Raging Bull is one of the great American films of all time. I think Robert De Niro is giving like a top 20 favorite, like one of my top 20 greatest performances ever is De Niro in this movie. I think the way he just captures Jake LaMotta through every era of his life, whether he is the up and coming boxing star to just the guy that just like you see the like backstage of his life and how awful he is to his wife and brother, and then just seeing the end, he's just this fat schlubby guy who just gained a bunch of pounds because he just couldn't stop eating pasta. I think is really incredible. Yeah, it's one I think the cinematography is just like people don't talk about how just gorgeous this movie looks, and just the shots, like that opening shot of him just in the boxing gym with that music playing is just incredible. Yeah, I would put it as my 6th favorite Scorsese movie, but that is purely just a comment on how strong his filmography is. If we were to have done this draft in July, I would have chosen After Hours because that's one of my top 3 favorite Scorsese movies. But yeah, phenomenal pick.
I will say I agree with Isaac McAdoo. Silence is my favorite Scorsese movie, for the record.
All right, and Dylan, was Raging Bull on your radar at all?
No, this is another one I haven't seen in a while, so I don't have a lot of interesting stuff to say about it. But yeah, this is like, from what I can remember, I'm not a huge fan of like biopics, but this is one that I really like because it really does not pull any punches in this, depicting this guy's life like he is. No pun intended. Yes. Yeah, he really is a piece of shit in this movie, and it's tough to watch. But I feel like it's been long enough. I need to give it a rewatch. So.
All right, Scott, you didn't want the number 1 spot, but you got it, and we're back to you. Finish out round 2 for us here.
All right. I'm feeling pretty good about where I'm at, actually. Okay, I'm going to take one of the more recent additions to the Criterion Collection because it's one of the more recent films in the Criterion Collection. I think it's probably a movie we all love. It's from 2021, and it's The Worst Person in the World.
Yeah.
You bitch. Good.
I'm looking at the poster. I'm actually looking at the poster on my wall as I speak. So I should have pulled a Payson and just taken the whole poster off the wall and held that in front of the camera. But I do own the Criterion Blu-ray as well. So, but yeah, this movie's amazing. It definitely fits in that subgenre I love of like coming of age movies about mid to late 20-somethings. Obviously, I am a mid to late 20-something. I will be an even later 20-something in about 6 days. But so I relate to this movie a lot, and the struggle to some degree of the main character, Julie, just trying to sort of figure her life out, get her life together, figure out what she wants. We see this opening montage sort of her trying out all these different pursuits that she's interested in, like not really knowing exactly what she wants to commit to, feeling somewhat similar in her relationships, right? She has Axel, her boyfriend, who seems like a fairly stable partner, but she ends up being enticed by someone else and enticed by something else. And just following her free spiritedness is kind of intoxicating throughout the movie. Even as, there is some apprehension about it and, maybe the knowledge that it's not going to be able to continue like this forever. The movie gets really sort of moving in the third act, I think, especially when she reunites with Axel and he is at the hospital. I mean, I think most of us have seen it by now. Anders Danielson Lee gives a great performance as Axel. The conversation that they have outside in the courtyard, other than the obvious scene, is probably my favorite scene in the movie. Like, the dialogue there is amazing. The dialogue throughout this movie is amazing. Joachim Trier and Eskil Vogt, like, that they are men who wrote female character in a very intelligent and sensitive way, which you don't always see. So I really appreciate that. Obviously, Renate Reinsve deserves a mention as well because she's amazing. Yeah, it's a great movie. It's a shame the screenplay just wasn't better than Belfast, but what can you do? But yeah, amazing movie, and again, one that hits hard with me, and it's right there with some other movies that I love that maybe will come up tonight, but with similar subject matter.
Okay. This is one actually I haven't got around to seeing yet. I do definitely want to watch it. I watched some scenes. I think you had it on your on some scenes on your top 100 scenes, Scott. So I watched those for that, and it's really looks really good. Looks like a really good. The scene that I watched really intrigued me. Maybe want to see the movie, but still got around to it. So, Melissa, was this something you were considering?
I wasn't considering it for the list. Maybe because of I've only seen it once and it is so recent, but regardless, I still think it's a great pick. I just didn't even think about it. Yeah, I drove an hour from my house to go see it because it wasn't playing anywhere near me. So anytime that happens, it's I do remember those experiences more than others, I think, just because it's a journey to go see the movie. But no, I remember just feeling blown away by the movie. I thought the screenplay was excellent. Because I agree with Scott, the dialogue is incredible, and it really just captures just relationships in a very human and realistic way, and the performances were really well done, and yeah, it's a great film. I need to rewatch it.
All right, Payson.
Yeah, good call, Scott. I was going to take this on the roundabout. I adore this movie with every fiber of my being. By the way, can I just say, what an awesome Criterion cover. It's not the full poster, but I love this cover. Anyone that's seen this movie knows what this is in reference to. But yeah, I ranked earlier this year my 30 favorite movies of the 2020s so far. This is my third favorite. I think I feel so bad. I'm gonna probably mispronounce her name. Renate Reinsve. Did I pronounce that correctly, or
isn't it Renate Reinsve?
Renate Reinsve, yeah.
Renate Reinsve is giving my favorite performance of the decade so far. I think she is absolutely incredible. I just think the way this movie portrays this character as someone who has serious flaws, but there's no judgment at all towards the character, and you're just watching these 12 chapters in her life. I love the storytelling framework of doing that. And yeah, just the third act where she reconnects with her ex-boyfriend, and just how impactful it gets, and how she thinks maybe we weren't right for each other, but I'm very happy you were a part of my life. And yeah, there are certain scenes, whether it's the shot from the poster, whether it's the drug scene, whether it's the ending shot, Kirk hasn't seen it, so I'm not going to spoil it, but just this is a movie. The more I think about it, the more I love it, and it could very well be my second favorite movie of the 2020s. I can't say it's better than Paul Thomas Anderson, but it's so good. Oh, it's so good. Thank you, Scott.
We have the same favorite then.
Dylan, are you feel as passionately about this as Payson does?
Well, yeah, I do love the movie Neon. Love Neon. This is probably one of their better films. Yeah, it's I think I talked about it on YLS when I was last on, but this is these types of movies like Francis Ha and this movie about like mid-20s trying to find like their direction basically is it hits pretty close to home with where I'm at right now. So yeah, I loved how this movie captures it. Great film.
Spence, I'm guessing this is one that was on your draft board rather high.
It was like lower. It might have been like a 5th round pick, just because again I think there's a lot of 5-star movies. This is a 4.5. It's a fucking razor margin at that point. But this is great. I think I was in the camp like, oh, it's like the second best non-English language movie last year, but it's still fucking great. Like pulling at straws at that point, pulling hairs, splitting hairs, whatever. I'll look at it later. But yeah, great fucking movie. I'll double check because I genuinely don't remember. I remember that opinion, but not like the perspective.
All right. Okay, so worst person in the world is off the board. Before Scott makes the next pick, I'll recap round 2. Melissa took House, Payson went with Nashville, Dylan picked Eraserhead, Spence took Raging Bull, and Scott picked worst person in the world. That brings us back to Scott on the wraparound, starting off round 3 with your number 3 pick. Scott, you are on the clock.
All right, so just as how I love the coming-of-age 20-something movies is a subgenre I love, another subgenre I love, the crime procedural is one that I am definitely a big fan of, as many people know, and maybe, well, it's not the greatest one, but it's very close to the greatest one. It inspired what is probably the greatest one. But an amazing masterpiece of a film is Bong Joon-ho's Memories of Murder. So that's my next pick. Amazing film about like the investigation into South Korea's first serial killer. You have Bong Joon-ho threading that tonal needle like he always does so well, where there's like moments of genuine humor in this movie, but like the stakes are the same. The darkness of it, like the seriousness of the subject matter is the same throughout. But you also just have a guy drop kicking people for no reason. And you just have a lot of funny dialogue, and the cops are kind of bumbling. But you know, it's been talked about before, but the fascinating thing is watching the arcs of the two main characters. I believe it's Song Kang-ho, and then I believe Kim Sang-kyung is the other guy's name. But the two of them sort of reversing their arcs as the course of the movie goes on. And the you know, country cop with no standards becoming, you know, the actual serious investigator, and then the out of town, you know, more by the book guy really throwing out all of his rules by the end, just because he becomes obsessed with getting the right person. Some like amazing haunting images in this movie. There's a bandage that's a super haunting image, a sneaker, like, and obviously the last image of, you know, of Song Kang-ho staring straight into the camera, like, who is it? Could it be you? Could it be the person sitting next to you? Who is the killer? You know, that's one of those images that stays with you. So I got to see this movie. Actually, it was like, it randomly came to my theater like during the pandemic, like when people were at least going back to theaters a little bit. And I was like, I got to take this opportunity up. And I went and saw it. That was the first time watch I had on the big screen. So that was a really awesome experience to get to have. Obviously, I own it now. I've seen it multiple times. It's so good.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite things about this movie is like every time a fight breaks out, there are no punches thrown. It's all just jump kicks.
Yeah.
And like to the point where like I'm like, if an American had made this movie, I would say this is really racist. But since it's a Korean, there must be something to it. No, but I think this movie is great. I think this is that's one of my favorite things in movies is like the opposing reverse arcs where they started in like one spot and then they kind of switch roles, which is just I love that about this. The mystery is great. Again, this is another one. I'll be honest. When I first watched it, I've only seen it once so far. Another one where they throw you into the story, and I love that. But because of the language barrier, it took me a little while to get caught up. And I think if I watched it again, I'd get a lot more out of it. Not something that usually bothers me too much, but just a couple every once in a while. The way the story's told, the way it's laid out, the way the dialogue works, sometimes I get tripped up. So I'm not a very bright guy. We are on round 3. So Melissa, we're going to come to you first with your thoughts on Memory of Murder.
Yeah, no, this is a great pick. I thought it might get taken. I've only seen it once, but it was incredible. It's definitely one of those movies I've recommended to so many of my coworkers and like people, because I do think it's just an excellent film. And anytime I talk to people who are like, I kind of want to watch foreign films, but I'm not sure, this is definitely one that's like up there that I'll recommend for people. No, that ending scene or shot is like one of my favorites like ever. If we're ever were to do like a ending shots list, this would be very high up there for sure. Great pick.
Pace, I'm not sure if I've ever heard you talk about this one. Is this something you wanted to draft?
Yeah, it's definitely when I was thinking. I adore this movie. This was maybe, I want to say I watched this movie for the first time in 2022, and it would no 2021, and it was my favorite movie. Like, I think I watched that year, except for maybe one other one that could technically be picked tonight. But yeah, like Scott said, just the intertwining nature of the detectives and how they change perspective, I think is incredible. I think this movie has a weird amount of like humor to it, even like despite the story like being as dark as it is. Like there's a scene where they're like, well, it looks like the perpetrator that he has a very unique penis look, and then one of the detectives is like, well, what am I supposed to do with that information? How am I supposed to deduce this? And the next shot is him in a hot spring, just
When they're all at
watching.
the sauna, yeah.
Yeah, just watching people just go by. And you can just see in his eyes like, yep, this is my job. This is my job. And then yeah, like the score of the film, the way it's shot, the scene where you're watching the woman just walk through the fields, and if you like if you're watching the back, you can see the killer like at points just like
Then that music kicks in.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so
That's
every time like in this movie, because you hear like, oh, the killer like you learn something about the killer that his trigger is a certain song on the radio, and every time that song comes on the radio in this movie, when that happens, you're like, oh no, oh my gosh. And then yeah, like the drop kick is incredible. One day I want to meet a fan of this movie and hopefully they'll get me if I just drop kick them right there, and they'll be like, I remember what?
Dylan, what's your take on this movie?
I actually haven't seen it.
All right, and Spence, how about you? Memories of Murder.
Oh, haven't seen it.
All right. Okay. Spence, that takes us to you for your number 3 pick.
Yes. I will keep a pattern. So our next film will also be an international film. And I will go with, what else am I but a fan of the gay shit? So I'll pick a classic, Y Tu Mama Tambien. Just stellar road trip movie. Like, I also think there's a really fun. Everyone's just okay. Everyone's gone. I just think it's really fun. It's a dynamic that I haven't really seen before in Okay by Dawn. It's just two dudes, doing it out, and they both fall in love with one of the guy's like cousins, second cousin. I forget how it's connected, and then they end up just through the road trip coming of age, like changing their perspectives on life and each other and realizing things that they wouldn't have had they not gone on this insane journey through Mexico. And I just came upon this at a young age, where I didn't see a lot of gay shit in movies, and I'm like, wow, that's some gay shit, and it makes me really happy. I don't know why. We'll unpack that later. But I think any movie that, it's minor spoiler, that has a scene where two dudes are just jacking it into a public pool, like, that has to raise some ears. Like, how does this get made? And it's 5 stars. Like, how do you miss with that? Also, new suit every round because I'm fucking committed.
Well, I'm sold.
Ready to go.
Yeah. I'll be honest. This is probably my least favorite Quran that I've seen. I think there's some. You see the talent there. what he's capable of a filmmaker. But I didn't connect to it, those scenes the way you did, Spence. I do really like the main actress. I forget her name. But I think she's really good in it. I think her story and as it's revealed, I really like the way that her story is kind of unspooled, and you kind of get a little piece at a time what's going on with her when you finally find out. It's kind of devastating. But her arc is pretty solid. But other than that, like I said, this is just not necessarily for me. Scott, I think based on your comments, you probably haven't seen this.
I have not. Yeah, I want to because I like Quaron. I should probably see it, but haven't.
All right, Melissa, your thoughts on this one?
I have not seen it.
All right, Payson?
I own it. I have not seen it.
And Dylan. Clean sweep.
Yeah, Canada sucks. This movie isn't available to watch anywhere here. It sucks. So I haven't
All right.
seen it.
I
Okay.
spilled the pool jack for nothing. God damn it.
I can't wait to see it.
All right, Dylan, you're on the clock now. What is your number 3 pick?
Yeah, well, going off my last pick of Eraserhead, it's on the same line. I'm going to go with a very dark movie full of despair with the master of disturbing, one being Jacques Tati, which that joke only works if you know who Jacques Tati is, which I guess not a lot of people in this community do. But he's one of my favorite directors, and this is I'm going with my favorite film of his, one of my favorite comedies ever, Playtime. This is, I think, one of the biggest like achievements of like just visual filmmaking ever for like this slapstick comedy. Like, it's weird to say that a comedy is like one of the best looking movies ever made, but like if you know the story behind this movie was a massive commercial failure. Like, he basically sunk an entire studio, made them go bankrupt making this movie. And you could see it just on screen because what they were able to achieve visually with all the sets and how it's like shot is amazing. Like, it's unlike anything I've ever seen. Like, Jacques Tati has a way of filming just like these normal everyday like sort of buildings and architecture and stuff that isn't really all that like far from what you'd see normally. He makes it feel like a sci-fi movie, which is necessary to the main character of her Monsieur Hulot, who is a very old-fashioned guy, and a lot of the humor comes with him coming to terms with like the modernization of the world and like technology and stuff. And yeah, the way that they capture it is great. A lot of amazing sight gags, like when they go to the restaurant at the end, just all the slapstick insanity that goes on there is amazing and so well done and told visually. Just his like environments in his movies, like I feel like with the phrase, which a lot of people kind of say a lot, it's become a cliche, like that the environment of a movie is a character. Like, that really applies to Jacques Tati's movies more than any other filmmaker, really, because like just the atmosphere and how he captures the environment is just so amazing. And this movie is like unlike any other comedy I've really ever seen. So yeah, I love it. And it's one of the few films I would go to see in theaters if they re-released it. I hate theaters.
I watched this for the show. I'd never seen it before, and I thought this was great. If you describe this movie to me, if you told me it was like almost, how long? It's about 2 hours, right? A little over 2 hours. It's of just sight gags and physical comedy and almost no talking. I would probably think I was going to check out on that pretty soon. But yeah, this movie is, first of all, talk about the way it looks. It looks great. Like, just the sets and the depth and the way, just how big everything looks and how cavernous everything is. And I think what's cool about it, not only it looks great, but I think like they use those sets for the comedy. Like, there's so many funny gags based on that. And I just love the way they use perspective. Like, you'll see somebody sitting in a room and you don't know where they're at, and then like they'll flip the camera around. You say, okay, this is where you kind of start to get your bearings, and it kind of keeps you on your toes. Like, there's a scene where a guy walks. There's a dark like closet, and a guy walks into it because he sees something curious, and then you realize, oh, that's the elevator, the door shut. Just things like that, where they really use the environment to build on the comedy. And yeah, the main actor, I didn't check his name. I forgot to check his
Jacques
name.
Tati.
Is that who it is? Okay.
Yeah, the
he's
director too.
Very much like a Buster Keaton or a Charlie Chaplin type. feels very influenced for them. But I also feel like you mentioned sci-fi, the sci-fi kind of feel to it. Terry Gilliam definitely watched this movie because it has a lot. When you watch Brazil, has a lot of that same feeling to it, like just that overwhelming, modern society pressure on you. But no, I thought this movie was great. Like I said, just not even joke a minute, joke every couple of seconds. And it's not like a lot of comedies like this that are based on just physical, like broader seeming comedy, kind of put it in your face, like, haha, laugh at this, look how funny it is. But there's so many subtle jokes to this. There's so many, like, just things where I want to go back and watch, because there's scenes where there's 8 different things happening at a time. And I probably caught like 2 or 3 of them, and they're all different, different jokes and gags happening. So I think it'd be great. And yeah, this would be awesome to see it on the big screen, because just like I said, the scope of it is so amazing. So yeah, I think it's a great pick. We'll go to Payson first. Have you seen this one?
I have not, but I just want to tackle something that Dylan said. Dylan, did you say you hate going to the theaters?
Mostly, yeah.
To each their own. Fair.
That's probably my biggest hot take in this community. I try to avoid it when I can.
Pretty big hot take.
Go Netflix.
Tim, please mute the stream right now for the next.
on like the film festival draft. He's like, oh yeah, and my random one. I'm on my couch, just hanging out.
Melissa, have you seen Playtime?
I have not. It's on my watch list, but I have not seen it, so I'll have to check it out.
Scott, how about you?
Next time I play Dylan in trivia, my strength is going to be theatrically released new releases. So there's no other way he can do that. But no, I'm kidding. I haven't seen this. However, it's funny that the theater thing comes up, because the indie theater up in Winston-Salem is actually showing this as part of their Sight and Sound series in July. So I really want to go see it, because it sounds like it would be amazing on the big screen.
That's not the Independent Picture House, though. It's a different one, right?
No, it's in Winston-Salem. It's Aperture Cinema. Yeah.
Spence, you seen this?
I thought you said Jacques Demy, and I got very scared for a second, but we're good.
All right, Payson, your third pick, please.
Yeah. Is Koho backstage right now?
No.
Okay. Well, no one's gonna play the clip, even though it probably should get played. So if anyone wants to sing it, they can. There's this director from Japan. His name is Akira Kurosawa. He's made a bunch of great films.
Textbook pandering.
Yep, you got it. There are some ones I can name. I'm not going to, because they could be other picks. I'm going to take legitimately my favorite one, and that is Yojimbo. Yojimbo is it's definitely for me the Kurosawa film I like to revisit and rewatch the most. Mainly because I just find it so much fun to watch. I think the character of Sanjuro is so interesting, how he just knows how to like play these two warring factions back to back. I think Toshiro Mifune, if this isn't my favorite performance he's ever given, it's definitely my favorite character he's played. You can see all the influences that Kurosawa had on Western cinema when you rewatch this one. When I tell people to get into Kurosawa films, this is one of the first ones I say to start with, even though it is my favorite. Most people don't have it as like their favorite, like me. So they'll see that and they'll go on to discover other ones. But yeah, it's an awesome samurai movie. To me, it's the pinnacle of that. It's Yojimbo. Kirk, I have a question for you. When you were coming into this trivia community, do you ever consider your trivia nickname to be Kirk the Yojimbro Kowalkowski?
He's not Ruben Colin. Come on.
No, but if we ever team up, Payson, we're going to be the Yojimbros.
Yojimbros.
No, Kirk, you missed your chance when you teamed up with Jim Green. That would have been the chance, right there.
Bring back mix-up. I've been saying
Yojimbros.
You missed it.
I mean, yeah, I love this movie. This is probably my I think Seven Samurai. Well, I shouldn't name picks, but I think he may have better movies. But this is personally my favorite, my most enjoyable to watch. I just watch this and then I go, and anytime I watch any other, Japanese or American crime or samurai or Western or any movie. Like, you just see the fingerprints of this movie all through it. And it's just such a fun movie to watch. It's funny. It's really funny. There's great action, great fights. It's a great character. There's nothing not to love about this movie. The score, amazing score. Just those scenes. It's in my opener. Just that standoff scene, so good. I go on all day about this movie, but I will let everybody else talk. Melissa, have you seen Yojimbo?
I have not seen it yet, but from what I've seen so far of Kurosawa, I am really enjoying his filmmaking, so I'm excited to see it at some point.
That's awesome. Scott?
Same as Melissa, I've seen 3 Kurosawas. I think they're all 5 stars for me, but I haven't seen this one yet.
Spence? Are you muted? Oh, you see?
wait.
Like barely hear it.
5 minutes too
I
late.
have to find the right clip. I haven't seen it.
Dylan?
Yeah, I mean, Kurosawa. Obviously, I was on the YLS episode. He's one of my favorite directors. Also, like I said at the beginning, I set this arbitrary rule where films that I've talked before, I wanted to avoid those. But yeah, I love this movie. It's very much him, sort of Akira Kurosawa going up basically against what he's typically known for, because he's a very optimistic filmmaker most of the time, and this is his most cynical movie with it. How the character of Yojimbo just manipulates both sides of these people just for his own personal gain. It's really, really interesting how it's all done, and just some great action scenes. And Toshiro Mifune is obviously amazing. So yeah, great pick.
All right, great pick from Payson. Yojimbo, his 3rd pick. Melissa, close out the round for us. You're on the clock.
Sure. I am gonna go. I couldn't not do this list without a Bergman film, so I'm gonna go with my personal favorite from what I've seen, which is Persona. This movie is absolutely incredible. We talked about it with his other movie, The Seventh Seal. The visual poetry that he's able to achieve in this, hell yeah, Dylan. I don't own it, but I really want to. The visual and Payson, hell yeah.
I haven't even taken this one with the shrink wrap.
Just what he's able to achieve in less than 90 minutes, which I love a movie that's less than 90 minutes. This one's nice and short. The visual poetry is incredible. The 2 lead actresses, Bibi Anderson and Liv Ullmann, are incredible, and I feel like they're not talked about enough. They are just 2 incredible actresses. Everything I've seen them in, they always just blow me away. On the surface, it might be just a simple film of 2 women talking, but there's just so much more. There's so many layers to this movie. I've actually only seen it once. I didn't get a chance to rewatch any movies for tonight. I wanted to rewatch this one, but I didn't have time. But it still has stuck with me. I remember the first time I watched it, I was like, what the hell did I just watch? And I love it.
I've only seen this the one time. I enjoyed it. I don't think I fully understood it. But I think you hit on the head. A movie like this, it's so visual and just very heavy on the psychological stuff. The fact that it's only 90 minutes is really nice. You're just in, you're out. You get the message and you're done. I think that's really solid. But it's definitely a movie I need to rewatch because again, I think it was well made. I just didn't wrap my head around totally on that first watch. Payson.
Yeah.
You didn't take out the shrink wrap yet. Have you watched it?
Yeah, I have not yet watched it.
All right. I believe the shrink was cracked on yours, Dylan.
Yeah.
Your thoughts on this movie?
Yeah, I love this movie. This would be in my top 100. I've seen I think 4 films by Ingmar Bergman, and I thought all of them were amazing. Just no one really makes films like him, and I think this is one of those interesting, almost Rorschach tests of a movie where you could play it for someone, and I feel like a bunch of people would have many different interpretations of it. If you were also like, if you were to put a gun to my head and just ask me like, what film has the best looking black and white cinematography ever, this would probably be the film I would say. Like, there's the shots in this movie are absolutely stunning, like so well made. But yeah, love this movie.
Cool. Spence, have you seen Persona?
I have not. I've not seen a single Bergman movie.
That's we have covered that. Sorry. And Scott.
And I have seen a Bergman film, but again, it is still not this one.
All right. So that brings us to the end of round 3. To recap, Scott went with Memories of Murder. Spence took Itu Mama Tamien. Dylan took Playtime. Payson nabbed Yojimbo. And Melissa closed the round out with Persona. So that takes us to round 4, and we are back to Melissa for your 4th pick.
Okay. I am going to go with a movie that is incredibly disturbing and it will make you uncomfortable, but I can't get over this performance. I'm going to go with The Piano Teacher. I'm just blown away by Isabelle Huber. Like, if I was to make a list of like top performances of all time, this would be up there, if not number 1. Like, it's incredible what she's able to do in this movie. Yeah, it's kind of simply, she's this kind of on the surface, this well put together piano teacher, but on the inside, she is beyond disturbed and definitely fighting some inner demons and very much sexually repressed, which I love those type of movies. I have a degree in psychology. If I could go back to school, I would be a sex therapist. Anyway, so it's like a big interest of mine. But yeah, just the way that this movie changes like the power dynamics of the 2 leads is really interesting to me. And just the relationship between her and her mom is just so bizarre and uncomfortable. It's just a very shocking movie, but it's just I love character study movies too, and that's very much this movie. It's very kind of slow and it's just kind of focused on her for the most part, but it's an incredible performance.
I have not seen this. Haneke is not a guy that I am like drawn to, but I mean, you made it sound interesting. It sounds like it's a pretty good movie, so I'll have to check this out at some point. We'll go to Payson. Have you seen this one?
Yeah, I have not. I only own one Michael Haneke movie, and that is Funny Games, and I've been wanting to watch that one. The only issue is when you know what Funny Games is about, and when you know what happens in it, it takes a lot of energy to be like, you know what, I think I'm going to watch this tonight.
It's not funny.
Yeah. I'll get to his films eventually, but he sounds like an extremely talented director, but it's something that I've always been like, I feel like I should prepare myself for that.
Yeah. Funny Games, another Haneke movie I have been avoiding like the plague. Dylan, your thoughts. Have you seen Piano Teacher?
No, I've seen 2 Michael Haneke films. Cachet is one of my favorite movies ever, and I also really love Funny Games. This is one I've been meaning to watch, but yeah, you do need to prepare yourself before you get into one of his films, because he has a way of exploring like the dark parts of like humanity and people's minds that are more so than I think better than I think a lot of other directors working today. So.
Spence, have you seen this?
I have not, but I think I'd like it a lot, so I support Melissa's pick.
And Scott.
I've also seen Cachet and Funny Games, but I haven't seen this one yet.
Okay. Payson, you're on the clock. Pick number 4.
Okay. A lot of my picks have been chosen, but I still have my go-to 3rd pick that I wanted to take. I'm going to take that one. The first ever film I blindly bought on the Criterion Collection. It was mentioned earlier, and I got a little nervous that I wasn't going to be able to take it. I'm sure if one Aaron J was on the show tonight, I could not have taken this one, but because he isn't, I am taking Brazil. Terry Gilliam, in my opinion, Terry Gilliam's best film that he's ever directed. No, I think Brazil is one of the most interesting movies like ever made, honestly. Like, just the way how it takes the concept of 1984 and just completely does that in a comedic sense. The character of Sam Lowry, just being someone that wants to get out of this boring lifestyle, and then as the movie just keeps on going on, he's just so cursed by the fact that he just cannot. Robert De Niro, like, this is a weird movie that people forget. De Niro has like a pretty major role in, but yeah, he's like the second lead character in it. All the makeup and prosthetic effects of all the characters trying to make themselves look like more attractive, and only making themselves look more disgusting, I think is great. The score of the dun 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 dun, I can listen to all day. The production design, oh my gosh, the production design, just everything just seeming so cluttered. It's one of the great. When people are like, okay, I'm really getting into movies, what's like the next step? I think Brazil is like usually when I'm like, you should really check out Brazil. Movie takes place on December 26th, so it's a fun movie to watch right after Christmas. But no, the movie takes place during Christmas, but it's so dark I don't like to watch it during the Christmas season. So I just watch it usually right after Christmas. Yeah, Brazil is incredible. Yeah.
No, I'm sorry I mentioned this. I didn't realize it was a Criterion movie. I'm a bad host.
Oh,
You're
good. You're good.
But no, this is a yeah. I really enjoy this movie. It's I'm not Gilliam's hit or miss with me. I don't always love his stuff, but I think this is just the perfect like outlet for him. Just just his work, creating his own world. I love the way it looks. I love like all the technology. It kind of looks futuristic, but also at the same time looks old and kind of archaic. I just love that combination of like this otherworldliness that creates for it, and I just love the idea of bureaucracy being the villain. Like there's no like arching like president or like overlord who's with nefarious plans to control these people. It's just this faceless bureaucracy that's kind of well-meaning, but that you can't escape from. And I that's why one of the things I really love about this movie. But no, I think it's a good pick. Very, very high value at number 4. Dylan, have you seen Brazil? And if so, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I love Brazil. It's talk about a director who it's a real shame that they're a very bad person, because I'm a big fan of Terry Gilliam and his films. But this film is probably my favorite of his. Although I also think that The Adventures of Baron Munchausen is very underrated. But yeah, I love the way that it, like Kirk said, it depicts bureaucracy. Like, dare I say, Kafka-esque, to make me sound pretentious, but
reference.
Not to give away the picks.
And I love how it's basically all set up by just like the chain of events happens from just like a complete accident where like a fly, like I think flies into a typewriter, if I'm remembering it correctly.
Nope.
And then basically that ruins a bunch of people's lives, just that one little event, because but yeah, it's a great movie. I love
it. Spence, have you seen this one?
I have. I am not a fan. I don't think it's bad. I just don't really like it. Sort of bored. Good production design, though.
Scott?
Yeah, I enjoy this one. For some reason, when I watched it, there was like a section in the middle that kind of like lost me a little bit. But I think the first half of the movie, and then the ending again, another sort of haunting ending in a way. Really good. And yeah, the song, I was going to comment on the song too, which really just like gets under your skin, as the movie goes on. So good pick. Not really on my list though.
And Melissa, did you have this one under consideration?
Yeah, I considered it. I saw it for the first time last year because I had heard it's kind of a holiday movie, which I would say it is. And then about a month later, I do a film club at work. Somebody chose it, so I watched it like twice within like a 2-month time frame, and it was great. I mean, the production design is just incredible, and I think it's very clever. It's like a very clever film, and I think it's interesting that it's very like whimsical and like fun in a way. Like and funny, but then it's also like so dark and depressing, and it's just a mix of so many different things. And yeah, I really love this movie. It's great pick.
All right, Pace take Brazil is number 4 pick. Dylan, we're on to you.
Yeah.
On the clock.
So I think for my next one, I'm gonna go with I think one of the only films I've seen from director Andrei Tarkovsky, who I want to get more into. I'm going with a film called Stalker, which is a great film that I think more people in this community need to talk about because it's it's another one of those ones where I feel like your interpretation can vary very much so from person to person. It is a long movie. It's just under 3 hours. Also, the very interesting backstory with it. A lot of the people that worked on this, including Andrei Tarkovsky, became very ill because of this movie, because there was like very, I guess, bad like negligence on the set, and they were very close to like asbestos and stuff, and everyone got sick and died. So that's unfortunate. But it's very interesting. The movie itself, I think it's a sci-fi film where there's these 3 characters who are trying to go out like beyond the society's borders, which the government like basically doesn't allow them to go beyond. They sneak past, and they have to go to this one area where they can like basically there's this one room that like grants wishes basically. So that's where they're trying to get. This one guy his job is a stalker. His job title is stalker, and he takes people to the room so they can make their wish there. And I guess consequences of what having that kind of power is like really is basically the conflict of the movie of like, should we have like, it's basically permitting people to like play God if they could just wish for whatever they want. And then this like very much almost like becomes like almost a religious parable with how I see it, of like the 3 different characters have like very different views on that. And it's like very interesting, and just the journey that they go on is like really weird and unique. Like they have to traverse the landscape by like walking in very specific patterns, and there's the different rooms and stages that they get to are all very, very interesting and well shot. Like it's a beautiful looking movie, and yeah, great use of color as well. Like it goes from like black and white, almost like brown basically, to like full color, and it's really well done, and yeah, a great film.
This is one that, like Persona, I've seen it once and I didn't fully comprehend it. I think, again, it's a great looking movie. I love that like barren landscape and just how like desolate it is, and how like kind of just hopeless it feels. But at the same time, it does have that like kind of fantasy, like hopeful element to it, like what they're trying to pursue. So it's another one I want to watch. Tarkovsky is somebody I really want to get into. Like this is the only movie I've seen, and I do want to see more. And I think, like, honestly, just because of how dense this one was, it's kind of, I don't want to say turned me off, but it's one of those ones where, again, I have to like build myself up to get more into it. But definitely someone I want to explore more. Spence, have you seen Stalker?
No.
Scott?
I haven't seen any Tarkovsky, unfortunately.
Melissa, have you seen this one?
I have not. It's really high on my watch list. I've only seen Mirror, which is truly some of the best visuals I've ever seen in film. So I definitely want to get into it more.
And Payson?
This is probably going to show off why this whole thing is my biggest issue. I bought that Blu-ray of Stalker back in 2017. And I still have yet to watch it.
All right. So Stalker, Dylan's number 4 pick. Spence, moving on to you. You are on the clock.
I will continue the pattern, and we will see who can guess the pattern. Many people call this one of the best films ever made. One of the better films of the 50s, at least. And fun fact, it is mine and Payson's friend, Kaleb Boatman's favorite film of all time, 12 Angry Men. I mean, how do you top perfection? I think that, I will say, shout out to Kirk. He made me study Sidney Lumet when I first got in this community. And that was an incredible 2 weeks. And I think after that, I was like, I should probably watch his best movie. And the fact that this is his best movie is wild, considering like what else he's done. This entire cast is fantastic. The fact that you can. I think it's difficult to find. Let me rephrase. I think that the SAG Ensemble Award is something very interesting to me because I think it's wild to imagine there is a cast that can be consistently across the board great. This is maybe the greatest cast assembled for a film ever in terms of quality of performances. There is not a single miss. There isn't a single line reading that I question. Every single even glance, I fully buy and convince myself this is a real fucking person. That is amazing. I don't know how the hell someone does that. I think this is Lumet's first film as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's
First
impossible. How the fuck do you do that? Also, how the fuck does this go in the 4th round? What the hell are you guys doing? Yeah, this is it.
Yeah, this may be one of the steals of the draft. This is again, it's 12 Angry Men. One of the greatest casts. The thing that blows me away, like if you watch this cast, like other than Fonda, like these are mostly like TV actors. Like you watch Twilight Zone, you'll see a lot of these guys on there. Like these are like kind of just journeyman actors, and I think that's what Lumet does. So you see that in a lot of his films where he just pulls in like he gets a couple stars, but he like surrounds them by guys you've never heard of and just gets the absolute best out of them. But yeah, it's again I've talked about this enough where I'm not going to repeat myself. I'll have everybody talk about it, starting with Scott. Go ahead and go around. I will be right back.
Not the disrespect for Jack Warden and Martin Balsam calling them TV actors, but no. Yeah, I mean it's an unassailable pick. I think we probably were all just like, oh well, it's obviously going to get picked by the next person. So like, and then it somehow ended up in the 4th round. Amazing movie, one of the most like accessible classic movies. Like I could show this to anyone regardless of their attention span, I feel like, and they would be hooked about what's going on, which is crazy because it's just people talking in a room for 1 hour and 40 minutes, however long it is. But an amazing look at sort of our justice system, how it can work correctly, which is not something that happens often, but we can dream, and this movie is a nice dream.
Yeah, I think Joseph hit the nail on the head in the comments there. The reason why I didn't consider this movie is because it's been talked so much, and I think that with the topic of Criterion, there's like so many different areas of like independent and art house films that I wanted to talk about that I don't think would get brought up in other contexts on this channel. So, but yeah, this movie is, I think, if I were going like objectively, this would be one of my picks because I think this is an amazing movie, one of my favorites of all time. Really, just like an amazing cast, like everyone said, and just how they show like at the beginning where they're just like, it's almost like they don't care, like they're just like, oh, whatever, I'll just agree with what everyone else agrees, and they're not even thinking that this is a guy's life that they're basically playing with here, that they're just not even caring about like whether or not this guy goes to prison for something that he may not have even done, and they're just not even considering it. They just want to get out early is like crazy, and how Henry Fonda is able to like convince them to like actually have a discussion on it is like really, really cool to watch.
All right, and I'm just going to say, Spence, thank you for mentioning that about studying Lumet. If I had a nickel for every person in this community who told me you made me study something and it was great, I'd have like a couple quarters of my name. So I think more people should
just pick good categories to watch movies for, like post 2010
Abby
live action
Quinn,
musicals.
for example,
There's
great.
no flaws. There's no bad movies.
All right, Scott, back to you. Close out the round for us.
Pure flicks. For round 4, I will close it out. I'm gonna take another film from Asia. I'm gonna go with one of my favorite movies, one of the best movies ever made, in my opinion. Edward Yang's Yi. I know I have talked about this movie a lot. I believe I picked it just a couple of weeks ago when we did the best of the 2000s. I don't care because still not enough people have seen it, and so I want to keep, proclaiming the gospel of Yi because it is one of the greatest movies ever, in my opinion. It is a film about a family in China and it is just about a season in their life, basically. That's kind of the plot in the movie. Yes, there are dramatic things that happen, but it's just more about reflecting on the nature of life and and family itself, and the idea of if we could do things again, if we could do certain things in our lives over again, could we? Should we? Is it possible to do that? Should we? Do we want to do that? What would that mean if we could? What does that mean for our lives as we live them? It tells several different stories about the different members of this family. Each one of them is gripping. Each one of them, again, has sort of a new perspective on life. It's just one of the most wise and perceptive films about human nature that I've ever seen, and it has one of the most adorable and badass kids in any movie with Yang Yang. It's a 3-hour movie, but it literally flies by. Like, I know it sounds like it's about nothing, but it's about nothing and everything at the same time, which is some of my favorite movies. So, Yi, it's on Criterion Channel. Watch it. Amazing film.
Yeah, I think, speaking of trivia, I think I watched this for something.
I think you watched it for my top 100, actually.
Okay, yeah. Either way, yeah. So yeah, that you had me watch this, and yeah, again, almost about 3 hour movie, and about like family drama. I'm usually going to check out, but this movie is amazing. Yeah, just everything about it. You're really captivated. You have like multi-generational family, and everybody's kind of going through all things. They're all together, but at the same time, they're all going through it alone. They're kind of like trying to deal with those things. I think all the characters are great. The stories are great. I think there's a lot of really like unique shots in this movie. Like really, the camera's used in a lot of really creative and like subtle ways. So like visually, it's very interesting, even though it's not necessarily a real action-packed movie. And yeah, Yang Yang might be one of the greatest characters ever put in film. You fall in love with that kid instantly, and you just make sure that only good things ever happen to him in his life. So yeah, I think it's a good pick. Nice pick up this late. We'll start with Spence. Have you seen Yi?
I have not. I do really want to, though.
Dylan?
I have not.
Payson?
It's one that I need to, from all the love I've seen from every single person that I've heard talk about it. The only thing that's like prohibiting me from doing it is like you gotta get a day where you have a 3-hour chunk. But I am going to watch it eventually.
And Melissa?
Yeah, this movie is it's hard to add, to be honest, more than what you said. But like, it's just it's a very human movie. It's very genuine. It's bittersweet, slice of life. It's great. And Edward, is that his name? Edward Yang?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Mm-hmm. His other movie too, I think A Bright Summer Day. That's another great one. It's
also amazing.
It very much feels like a Soul like sequel or prequel. I don't know which one came first, but like they feel similar, but different.
He unfortunately passed away in his 50s, and makes you sad because he probably would have made one or two more great films.
Yeah, but great pick.
Okay, that takes us to the end of round number 4. To recap, Melissa picked The Piano Teacher, Payson picked Brazil, Dylan took Stalker, Spence picked up 12 Angry Men, and Scott chose Yi. Scott, that brings us back to you for your final round.
All right, it's the final round. I'm just going to let it ride with a pick that's not going to be the most popular pick, but it's one of my favorite movies. I'm going to pick Boyhood. This is just, again, talking about coming of age movies. This movie changed the way that I thought about life and my own coming of age. Honestly, the way that it depicts the coming of age of this kid Mason, not in sort of the big milestones or big moments or everything that you associate with growing up, but in these mundane interactions that don't seem like much when they're happening, but that ultimately, by the end of the movie, you realize have added up to actually create the person that we have been watching for 2 hours and 40 minutes. It's such an interesting way to think about growing up. And he's not the only one growing up, right? Because his parents are also changing so much over the course of the movie. And Patricia Arquette and Ethan Hawke are giving amazing performances. I mean, it has to be so difficult, right? Like you're filming 10, 12, 15 minutes, whatever, of this movie per year. and then you go away and you go do all of your other projects or whatever, and then all of a sudden, you know, you come back and you have to like get in that right mindset again. But the characters never feel like inconsistent with each other, despite the way that the filming worked. So that's an amazing credit to them. Obviously, amazing credit to Richard Linklater. But it's a movie that sneaks up on you. Again, you're kind of just getting lost in the moments as they're happening, and then, you know, when Mason's going off to college at the end, it's like it kind of all hits you like a tidal wave. And Patricia Arquette has that amazing sort of monologue there about, well, what does this mean? Like, you know, this is sort of what I think my life was building up to, and what's going to happen. The next thing that's going to happen for me is I'm going to die, right? Like, it's kind of showing the different way of thinking. Like if you center your life around these milestones, but I think Linklater has a different perspective on it, and you know, it's very interesting to see. So I adore this movie, and also the Criterion version is great because you get the commentary, and obviously, as you can imagine, whether you like the film or not, the commentary is very interesting to listen to about how they did this entire thing. It's got Linklater, and it's got a lot of sort of the other crew members and supporting actors and stuff in the film. So highly recommend it.
Okay, I know most people are pretty hot or cold on this movie. I'm somewhere in the middle. I feel like it's good. The whole idea of filming it over, you know, however long they filmed it, 12 years, whatever, is an interesting exercise. I don't know if, other than actually, you know, the fact that you get to watch the little person grow up, I don't know if it actually adds anything to the story. I don't know if this movie would be much different if you just casted different actors, or however you want to do that with the you know, the aging of the characters, the time passage. But it's good. I mean, I think it's a good coming of age story. I feel like the younger actors are a little more interested at certain times than in others, and that kind of shows. But I think Ethan Hawke's great. I think he's really good in it, and so yeah. Again, I think it's good. I think it's a solid movie. I think it gets maybe overpraised because of the gimmick, and I think it gets maybe a little too much credit for that. But I think everything you said about it, Scott's legit. Spence. Thoughts on Boyhood?
Underrated. I think it's really good. I don't get the hatred for it. Is Eller Coltrane like a little rough in the later years? Yeah. But it's still fucking great. The whole movie's fucking great. Linklater's daughter, whatever her name is, she's way better than she should be. Like, I don't know. I also love Ethan Hawke in this movie. Just like smaller, like, I know he's not like the one who won the Oscar, but I think he's really good.
Dylan, Boyhood?
Oddly enough, this is one that I never caught up with watching, so I still haven't seen it.
All right. Payson, where you stand on this one?
Yeah, I love Boyhood. Yeah, this is a movie I got to talk with Scott when he was my guest panelist on Cinemasters Reviews, which you can watch every Monday live at 8 EST on the video store. But yeah, I think Boyhood is an incredible triumph in filmmaking. I've always described it as like the smallest epic you'll ever watch, because like the movie has like the length and like the scope of like an epic film, but it also like it's just about this one kid's life in a way, and just seeing how everyone changes. I've always said I think watching, in a way, Ethan Hawke's character, I'll say it honestly, grow up is just as compelling as watching Mason grow up, because you see Ethan Hawke go from this guy who, like, you can kind of see why Patricia Arquette's character probably divorced him, because he seems to be someone that, like, isn't ready to be there for, like, his kids, like, the whole time, just as ready to be there for moments. And then by the end, he now has a second family. He seems to be doing really, really well, and he seems to have he seems to have grown up in a much more mature way, just like how Mason has. And yeah, I honestly kind of love how this movie ends, like how it just sort of ends in a way of like it barely has an ending, and I think that's purposeful into saying like, look, this is our time of watching these characters is gone, and they're gonna keep living, but we're just gonna stop watching them. So. Yeah, I think it's incredible what Linklater did. If you weren't a fan of the whole 12 years thing, well, see ya in 2040, because you see what his next movie is.
And it's a musical.
Well, I hope it's not his next movie. I hope there are other movies in there, not just this
Good
one.
point.
Where'd you go, Bernadette 2?
And
Movie's not
Melissa,
great.
what's your thoughts on Boyhood?
Yeah, I only saw it the once, like when it first came out, so like it's been years since I've seen it, but I do remember enjoying it. Like I remember thinking, oh, that was a good movie. I don't remember thinking it was like, you know, maybe like the best movie I've ever seen, but again, I remember really enjoying it. So maybe at some point I'll rewatch it. The commentary sounds very interesting, so maybe I'll pick it up on Criterion.
All right, Spence, go ahead, hit us with your final pick.
Continuing the pattern, I'm gonna go. I tipped the pick earlier. Jacques Demy is a cool dude. He's like if Wes Anderson liked musicals and was a little bit less pretentious, which he's French, which is really difficult. The Umbrellas of Cherbourg.
So good. So good.
I've realized my favorite kind of musicals are operas or operettas, which is basically for non-musical theater nerds out there, is none, maybe a little bit of talking. I believe this is an operetta. It might be an opera, but it's very close. And for some reason, I think that just elevates everything, where the idea of like the language of musicals is to use music in a heightened sense of this is your emotions outpouring, and every single part of you, the only way you can communicate is by singing, by having every part of yourself committed to like an art, or even like in the idea like in on stage, you can't talk over someone singing. Their emotions are that important. And this whole movie is just that, and I think that's really just core to like our two leads. I think it's, I forget what the woman's name is. I know the guy's name is Guy, because that's fucking stupid. But the idea that they have to go through so much struggle and pain through love into nothing, like that hurts, and that's really hard to sit with. I think a lot of us, like I saw this at like a relatively young age, and the idea going into adulthood that things don't work out. Like you can love someone so deeply and put all this time and care into them, and it all just sort of goes away. And maybe you'll see them again, maybe you don't, and that doesn't really matter because they're out of your life. That is so hard to sit with. And the fucking pastels, the way that Jacques Demy just films everything, like yes, musical numbers, but just the world seems heightened into realism almost. Like it feels like a memory that you want to be good, but it just hurts the more you look into it. Like it's perfection. One of the best musicals ever at Top 40 Musicals. Check that shit out. And I have watched half of Young Girls of Roquefort. Also a good movie. Just didn't finish it.
No, that's a good pick. I didn't think this was going to get picked, but it's solid. Yeah, for the main thing obviously is the music, but what always strikes me about this movie is the visuals, the way it looks. The way this movie uses color, like how there'll be a room that's a certain color, and someone walks into the room and they're wearing a different color, and then they walk in a different room, and it's the same color as the clothes that person is wearing, and there's got to be someone smarter than me can figure out what it all means. There's got to be some meaning to it, because there's such a distinct pattern to the way that works. It's all throughout the movie. And that's one of the things I love about the most. But yeah, the music's great. The story's really good. I do like the story, how it's about just like the relationship kind of ending and, fading away and falling apart. And the ending is really strong. So yeah, good pick, Spence. Scott, have you seen this one?
No, I haven't. Sorry.
Melissa?
Oh yeah, I watched this for the first time recently, and I'm obsessed. It's fantastic, and I'm falling in love with Catherine. I can never say her last name. Thank you. Yeah, she's just fantastic. Yeah, the color palette. I thought I'd get annoyed with like the singing constantly, but I really didn't. I thought it was great. And man, the ending. I was not expecting to bawl my eyes out at like 8 a.m. watching this, but here I was. I was very emotionally like impacted by this. I thought it was a very like mature ending, and like a very like stick the landing type of ending as well. I was not expecting that. Also, he has a movie called Lola that has a connected universe with this movie, which was interesting to watch Lola and then this. back to back. Also, he has a crazy ass movie called Donkey Skin that more people need to watch because it's insane.
I think a character from this also appears in Young Girls of Rogue 4, unless I'm mistaken.
I don't know. I haven't seen that one yet, but
Oh.
it's on my list.
Basin, have you seen Umbrellas of Cherbourg?
I have, and Spence, I think it's really interesting that you think the fact that Jacques Denis named the main character of this movie Guy, even though he is a guy, because I believe when the movie was coming out a few years ago, I believe Sean Levy said the reason why he called Ryan Reynolds' character in Free Guy was because it was a homage to the Umbrellas of Cherbourg, and that which also explains a bunch of the shots in Free Guy and some of the scenes of that film.
Scott, you like the movie?
What?
Scott, do you find like Free Guy now that you know is connected to Umbrellas of Cherbourg?
I haven't seen Umbrellas of Cherbourg, so
What
the fuck, Scott?
I just said this like 2 minutes ago.
Listen, everything I said in the past 5 seconds is a lie, except for the fact that I have seen Umbrellas of Cherbourg. It's incredible. A certain hack from Philadelphia made me watch this movie for a title match, and I really, really enjoyed it. Like most people, I think this movie is gorgeous. Like the color palette is one of the most aesthetically pleasing films to look at. The actual love story of just these two people that do definitely love each other, but just can't find the right time to get together, I think is incredible. Yeah, wonderful film.
And Dylan, you've seen this one?
Yeah, I saw it earlier this year for the first time, and I kind of maybe went in with too high of expectations almost. Like I went in like expecting like, oh my god, this is gonna knock my socks off. This looks amazing, and I thought it was really, really good. I don't know why it didn't fully like click with me the way it has with some other people, but I do think it's a really solid movie, and yeah, just beautifully shot, and the music's really good.
Cool. All right, Dylan, that brings us back to you for your final pick.
All right, time to go back to some weird shit.
Yeah.
So I've been getting very into samurai movies recently. I have one pick left for the action film of my films that I'm drafting here. And one franchise I've been getting into is a franchise called Lone Wolf and Cub. The first one's really good. Very solid film. This is also a franchise based on a manga series, by the way, and which is I want to get into because the movies are really good. But I'm not going with the first one. I'm going with the second one, Lone Wolf and Cub, Baby Cart at the River Styx. This movie is fucking wild, and I'm basically picking it for my last pick because no one was going to even think about taking it. And I wanted to shout this movie out because it's fucking insane. Just the different characters that they have in this movie, it's like very, very comic booky and like strange. Like the way that they introduce the villains. Like, by the way, if you don't know this franchise, it is brutal as fuck. Like, it's from the 70s, and it's like, imagine if, like, you took, like, the samurai films by Akira Kurosawa and made them, like, exploitation films, basically, full-on exploitation films. Like, there's geysers blasting blood all over the place. When they introduce the villains in this movie, it is kind of terrifying because they basically ask this group of samurais, basically give us your best fighter, your best man, basically, for to go up against us. What they do to this guy is one of the most brutal like deaths in a movie ever. Like they fuck that dude up. It is crazy. Just insane stuff. Like the main characters, it's the franchise follows a samurai and his son. They travel together and they even fight together. Like he basically takes his son in like this little cart, which is also equipped with a bunch of blades and stuff. And his son gets involved in the fighting scenes where he would like tap on like the cart or whatever, and a blade would come swinging out the side and cut a dude in half. Really crazy fun action like that. And yeah, there's also, it's one of those movies where it just kind of reduces me into like a little kid just explaining like how badass it is and like different scenes that happen in the movie. There's one awesome scene in this movie where the villains capture the little kid. The kid's completely unfazed, even though they're holding him over a well, like basically to intimidate the main samurai dude, who I'm forgetting his name, and the kid's completely unfazed. What he does is he kicks off a sandal, and then there's silence, and the main samurai listens and waits until he hears it hit the bottom of the well, so he knows exactly how many seconds he has to kill everyone around him before catching the rope to save his son from falling to his death.
That's
and
awesome.
It's so awesome. It is so good.
Yeah, I love this movie. I've only gotten into the first 2 movies of the franchise so far. I haven't seen. I'm sorry, Dylan, I didn't step on you. Were you done?
No, I was done.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Everything's Dylan said is insane. If you like The Mandalorian, thank this franchise because it's very much it's this is a movie about a warrior wandering the world with a little kid, just in a cart he's pushing around. It looks very much like, Grogu and his little floating bull. So I mean, it's very much borrowed from that. But yeah, it's so cool. It's super violent. The villains are great. Like, it's very unique, fun villains. Also has like very much like a Kill Bill type of feel. So influence there as well. The samurai is just some guy. Like, he doesn't look like a warrior. He just is like this very schlubby looking dude, and he's got this little kid. And the kid is awesome. Like, he has like his like Dylan said, his cart's all pimped out, so people would come and think they're gonna grab him. They get like secret swords come out stabbing them, and like just the relationship between the two of them. Like, the kid's basically like a toddler. He's not that old, but like he has like this understanding of what they're doing and what's going on, and it's enough for them to like survive. And that's really all they're doing is they're being hunted by all these people. So no, very fun movie, brutally violent, very cool. Has anybody else seen this movie?
Sounds awesome.
So tired of this movie coming up on Wild.
I'm sold though. I want to see it.
Yeah,
definitely check it out. Yeah. Pace, that takes us to you for your final pick.
Yeah. I think I'm just going to be personal, and I'm going to take my favorite film from the second best director with the last name of Anderson. Event Horizon kicks so much ass. Sam Neill, Lawrence Fishburne, Blood. I'm kidding. That Event Horizon is not in the Criterion collection.
Okay, that.
No, I'm taking my favorite Wes Anderson movie. I'm not sure how Kirk feels about Wes Anderson, but I'm picking The Royal Tenenbaums. I think this is probably still for me the most adult story, like the most real any characters in a Wes Anderson movie has ever felt personally to me. It's not as like humorous as some of his other movies, like Fantastic Mr. Fox or I should not be naming the picks of some of his other movies.
It's the last round.
Yeah,
you're fine.
Okay, that's Fantastic. The Grand Budapest Hotel. But like, I just think the characters are just so well developed. I love coming of age movies that are not about like teenagers, but are about like people that are older. And this is probably the oldest, the coming of age movie I've seen with the oldest character, because I think this is a coming of age movie about Royal Tenenbaum and him finally growing up and realizing, you know what, I've been an awful father, I've been an awful husband, and I want to try and reconcile that before it is too late. I think Ben Stiller is so underrated as Chaz Tenenbaum. You can see how all of his life history is completely like destroyed the way he is parenting his kids and has become such a helicopter parent. Luke Wilson as Richie Tenenbaum, that's my favorite performance. Richie Tenenbaum is my favorite character in the movie. Just this depressed tennis player that cannot admit his true feelings to himself because he's going to be ostracized, even though he's in love with his adopted sister that he's known since they were kids. Gwyneth Paltrow, I think, is incredible as Margot Tenenbaum. It's probably my favorite Gwyneth Paltrow performance, and I just love their relationship. Angelica Houston is great. I love her relationship with Danny Glover. Danny Glover's underrated. He's like the most like wholesome character in the movie. Phenomenal soundtrack. Like, I think everyone has like a different favorite needle drop in this movie. My favorite one is Needle in the Hay, where Richie learns about Margot's past and just goes into the bathroom. And if you've seen the movie, you know what happens. Yeah, it's like right before he definitely has gotten the Wes Anderson aesthetic at this point in his career, but it's not gone to like the super Wes Anderson-ness of stuff like The Grand Budapest or like Moonrise Kingdom. Even though I love those movies, I think that this is still probably my favorite like production design of any of those movies. And yeah, I just want to spot like this is like one of the best like Criterion, like not only is the cover just incredible, but like you get a bonus with this one if I can pull it out. You get a map of the entire house. I can't pull it out super easily, but like all of his movies usually come decked out with like extras, and you have an entire diorama of the Tenenbaum mansion in this Blu-ray. So yeah, I cannot recommend it enough, and it's one of my favorite films of all time.
I like Wes Anderson, to answer your question. I don't love. There's certain things, some of them, I like some a lot more than others, but overall, I'm a fan. Royal Tenenbaums is probably my favorite. It goes back and forth between this and Grand Budapest, but I definitely think this is his most accessible movie, probably because it's the most personal. Like, I like the fact that it has like his quirkiness to it. But it's grounded in more of a reality, especially, as far as these people go, like real lives and, real things that are happening to them. But yeah, I think the entire cast is fantastic. I think it's just a really cool story. Alec Baldwin in his narration is fantastic, and I don't think people talk about that enough. And I think that was like just a one-off. Like, people were like, or Wes Anderson was like, hey, just do this for me for filler. We're not going to use it. Just record something. And he did it, and they put it in the movie. And it was great. So, no, fantastic movie. Fantastic last pick. Melissa, any chance of this being your 5th round pick?
It is not. I actually have not seen this since it first came out. And I've only seen it once. I remember really liking it, but I'm definitely due for a rewatch at some point. So I don't have much to say because it's been a long time.
And Pace, I forgot to mention too. Since you pulled out the disc, I picked this up for $2 at the library.
Yo.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's a good
dumb people get rid of their DVDs. They don't know what they have. Yeah. Scott, Royal Tenenbaums.
Yeah, I mean, I really enjoy every Wes Anderson movie, so I really enjoyed this one. It's not one of my favorites. Gene Hackman is so incredible in this movie that it almost does overshadow some of the other performances to me. And there's just something about it that has never quite clicked as much as some of the other ones do, but like, it's really good. I do think it's really funny, like the scene where he talks to, I guess, his nephews or his grandsons at like the I don't even know where they're at, tennis court or something, is hilarious. The dialogue in that scene with Royal is hilarious.
Spence, Royal Tenenbaums.
I really like this, and as a Wes Anderson fan, I feel like it's heresy to say this isn't like my lower half of movies for him. Not that I don't like it; it is still 4 stars. I just have 2 of these in my top 100, and then I also really fucking love Rushmore. So, and Fantastic Mr. Fox. So it's tough.
And Dylan, you like this one?
Yeah, I'm a big Wes Anderson guy. He's one of those directors that just really works for me. I have this one on Criterion. I kind of got tired of getting up and grabbing the Blu-rays, but yeah.
Gotta come prepared, Dylan.
But yeah, I love this movie. Gene Hackman, it gives probably one of my favorite performances of all time, as everyone has said. He's amazing in it. Yeah, I don't have much else to add. Great film.
All right, Melissa, that brings us to you and the final pick of the evening.
All right. Seems like we all went with our heart this last round, and I will continue that trend. My last pick is going to be Juliet of the Spirits. I'm becoming such a big Fellini fan, and this is definitely my personal favorite. Maybe objectively it's not his best film, but I don't really freaking care. I love this movie. It stars his real life wife, which she's in a lot of his movies, Giulietta Messina, and basically she kind of suspects her husband is cheating on her, and she kind of goes on this spiritual journey with herself. And there's definitely a lot of dream sequences, again blending fantasy and reality type of stuff. So of course this is my jam. I definitely have come to find that he has some themes in his movies. He definitely has like a lot of religious trauma stuff because I feel like there's always a little bit of a religious angle to a lot of his movies, and also like circus things, like or like clowns and street performer kind of stuff, and that's definitely in this movie as well. But I think the set design is amazing. Costumes are incredible. A lot of amazing hats. If you like hats, they're here. But I just think it's a really beautiful film, and I think it's about like love and self-love and self-acceptance at the end of the day. And I find it to be a very like healing kind of message towards the end of the film. But it's very wacky and zany, and it's a lot of fun. Highly recommend if you have not seen it.
Yeah, I got to see this one last week, and I thought it was really good. This is only the second Fellini I've seen, but I think he's somebody I want to explore some more because just a really fun movie, and I just love the fact that it is about like her, discovery that her husband's cheating on her. But for that storyline, it's such there's such like a sweetness to this movie. And like just a lightheartedness to it, which you wouldn't expect from that kind of thematic content. And it's just kind of her like just wandering around, and she's making new friends and meeting people, and some of them are like good for her, some of them aren't. But she's kind of like just figuring out who she is. And I think the actress is just so good. She's got that like really sweet smile, and she's very quiet and just watches and observes and is learning all these things. And like sometimes there's ghosts and just different weird things going on. And I just loved the whole cast. And I think that's something. The way it's filmed is just. I think it's only Italians could pull that off, of making it like just about like adultery, but also just like cute and fun. And the whole cast is just so, even though it is about like sex and sexuality and repression, all these different things, like there's an innocence to it. And the whole cast it's almost like they're almost like childlike. They're just like a bunch of kids like running around like figuring all this stuff out. So I really like that about it. It was really like breezy watch just because of how much fun it was. So yeah, good final pick. Scott, have you seen this one?
No, I haven't seen any Fellini actually.
All right, Spence, you had a reaction. What are your thoughts?
Oh no, I think there's a few movies that I knew that like, Melissa was gonna pick, and I have a massive list of shit that I wanted to watch for the show, and I played a shit ton of matches. But this was on there because I knew that she really loved it. I was like, I should support Melissa, and she has really good taste, so I'll probably like this.
Dylan, you seen this one?
No, this is another one that was on my Criterion channel or Criterion challenge list for films that I'm going to watch this year, basically based on Melissa's recommendation, because I remember I first heard about it when she talked about it on Logged It, and I thought it sounded pretty interesting. So I'm looking forward to checking it out.
All right, and Payson, you seen this one?
I have not. I have unfortunately never seen a Fellini film. He's one of my blind spot directors, but it sounds super interesting.
Okay. All right. Well, that's going to close out the draft. Let's recap round number 5. Scott went with Boyhood. Spence took Umbrellas of Cherbourg. Dylan took Lone Wolf and Cub, Baby Cart at the River Styx. Payson chose Royal Tenenbaums. And Melissa closed out with Juliet of the Spirits. Now I got to say who wins here. First place is going to be Payson.
Yo!
Hard to beat. He took Jim. It's checkers, guys. There's one Criterion
movie.
There's one Criterion movie in the opening in the opening credits here. But no, I mean, Strange Love Yojimbo and Royal Tenenbaums are as a tough combo to beat. Nashville and Brazil are both strong. Second place is Spence, Raging Bull, and 12 Angry Men. Both very, very solid picks. Not a huge fan of Itu Mama Tamien, but In the Mood for Love and Umbrellas of Cherbourg, both really solid. From there, it's tough. Everybody else is kind of close, the three of you. Man, this is rough. Everybody's list was good. Nobody had a bad list. I think I'm going to give Dylan the third one, just because of Playtime and Lone Wolf and Cub. Stalker, Eraserhead, both tough to digest, but very well-made movies, well as The Seventh Seal. I think fourth place I'll go with Melissa. because I watched Red Shoes and Julia the Spirits because I figured she's going to pick those, and I really enjoyed them. I'm glad I got to watch those. And House is a really good movie. I really like that pick. I didn't expect to see that. Scott, last place, not shameful here. It's still a very strong list. I think
Do the Right Thing, Yee, and Memories of Murder is last place somehow.
I mean, that tells you how strong this draft
Yeah,
was. You
I
all
guess
did a really
so.
good job.
That's fine. Hit the
So, I
language
mean, I'm not going to
barrier,
tell you your list sucks because you did a good job, but I mean, I think
Yeah, true.
it was the least strong of the 5 for me personally, but still some really good picks. So thank you everybody for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. It's always great to talk about movies like this and focus on some great classic and really strong movies. Like I said, next week we're off. Week after that is the soda tier list, and everybody's chomping the bit for that. Talk to Cody or Koho if you're going to be on that one. And the Build a Movie is going to be in June. Thank you, Payson, for being my Vanna White tonight and showing all the movies off. Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Melissa, for making your debut here. Great to have you. Spence, great to see you as always. And Dylan, of course, always fun to see you. So thank you everybody for watching. We will see you next time. Have a great week.
You're not going to intimidate me. I'm entitled to my opinion.
Drunk, get angry. Come on, break the lousy cup. Ow! I hurt my arm.
And not expect everybody to do everything.
I'm going there soon, you know.
Is that so? Where are you going?
Uruguay.
Well, you go